Now it's time to hear the stories of Utes in their own words. This is Utes Insider presented by Pepsi. Here's your host, Mike Lageschulte.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show as we enter the month of July in 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. Hard to believe it's been almost 4 months since the coronavirus shutdown began in the U.S., but the past few weeks, we've seen some encouraging signs of sports returning to life. Boxing, MMA, professional golf have all returned. College athletes are now back on campus for off-season workouts. And in terms of team sports, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, all getting close to a work return later in July. But the first professional sports league returning to play in the U.S. is the National Women's Soccer League, and it's happening right here in the Salt Lake metro area with the NWSL Challenge Cup, which takes place June 27th through July 26th. And two former Utes are involved in that event. Goalkeeper Carly Nelson, who now plays for the OL Reign. The other, Holly Daugirda, who plays for the Utah Royals, and she will be our guest on today's show. Holly was a 4-year player for the Utes from 2016 to 19. She was a big part of Utah's NCAA Tournament run last year. She also played for Utah's Sweet 16 team, the first in school history, by the way, back in 2016. And this event really is special for Holly. She played high school soccer at Skyline High School, so she's really excited to be playing for her hometown team in this tournament, and we are excited to get to talk to her about her Utah career as well as this experience of getting ready for the NWSL Challenge Cup. Holly Daugirda, our guest on Utes Insider, presented by Pepsi, when we come back.
To hear more episodes of this show and other Utah Athletics podcasts, search for them on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Now back to more of Utes Insider presented by Pepsi.
We are so pleased to be joined by one of the first athletes who has engaged in competition since the COVID-19 shutdown. Holly Daugirda, a former Ute who is now playing with the Utah Royals FC in the NWSL Challenge Cup that's taking place here in the metro area at Zions Bank Stadium. In fact, her first match was yesterday. We'll talk about that and also look back at Holly's career. But Holly, I know you're busy with training in this tournament. We appreciate you taking some time to join us.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Great to have you. It seemed like just yesterday we were watching you play with this Utah team as you guys made NCAAs, but let's kind of pick it up from that point on, and then we'll go back to your Utah career here in a bit. But it's been quite the winter and spring for you. So I understand you graduated in December, and you were invited to training camp with the Utah Royals. You played with their semi-pro team last year, so obviously you were in the mix for players they were looking at, and then you go to training camp, and then COVID-19 hits us, and everything gets shut down. So kind of a lot of stopping and starting for you. Maybe just walk us through what the past couple months has been like for you during this process.
Of course. So with the quarantine, everything was kind of dark. I had no idea what was going to happen. We had training camp in March, and then everything shut down 2 days into training camp. And so for the next, I'd say 2 months, I just continued training and following. We had strength and conditioning coach give us workouts and things like that. But I really didn't know it was going to happen. And then in May, I was actually informed that I would not be joining the team again for the Challenge Cup. And I was really disappointed, but I completely understood with the circumstance and the coronavirus. But then 3 days later, they actually ended up calling me back and inviting me in and letting me join the team. And then I trained with them for a couple weeks, and the finalized rosters were approaching for the Challenge Cup. And the day before the rosters were finalized, they offered me a short-term agreement for the tournament. So now we're here, and it's been an exciting journey for sure.
Well, that is such a cool experience for you to go through. Obviously, some disappointment that was there, and then a chance to play. I know some players have backed out of this tournament, which opened some spots. But still, I mean, you are playing professional soccer, and you're playing in your hometown. How cool is that to be a native of Salt Lake City to play in this NWSL Challenge Cup?
It's really fun and exciting, and it's great because I know I have a community here that supports me, and I have my family close. So it's been really cool.
I'm so happy for you to get this chance. You know, obviously there's a lot of concern about the COVID-19 pandemic and the spread of the virus. And as we're watching the pro leagues sort of ramp up, I know Major League Baseball is reporting today. The NBA is ready to get things going end of the month. NHL will follow. But you guys are the first ones to actually get into team competition. I know there's concerns, and they're being very tight with some things with testing on a regular basis and quarantining the team and really separating you guys from everyone else. They've called it a bubble in most instances. So just Talk to us about what that's been like in terms of how often you've been tested, when you guys were isolated, and so forth as you got ready for this NWSL Challenge Cup.
Of course. So we actually went into a complete quarantine and isolation about a week ago. And we are fortunate enough to be housed in apartments that the Royals were already staying in, while other teams will be at hotels for the remainder of the tournament. And it's been very interesting. We have testing about every four days or so, and
Wow.
the testing is not that pleasant.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
We kind of understand it's what we have to do in order to maintain the health and safety of everyone that will be involved in joining the tournament. But yeah, it's been very interesting, to say the least.
In terms of people you're allowed to be around, so obviously it's your teammates, your coaches, and some support staff, but in terms of people able to bring you meals or interact, since you're from the metro area, interact with friends and family, even from a distance, how much are you able to get away from your team, and who's all been allowed in this bubble that you guys are living in right now?
It really is everyone who is involved, like the coaching staff, the GM, our owner, all the players, and then, like you said, people who are serving us meals. Everyone's involved and everyone gets tested.
Wow. Do you feel isolated? I mean, obviously, I'm asking a question. I know you are to an extent, but are you really conscious of it, or is it just kind of like, hey, when you're on a team, a lot of times you are just around each other a lot. You're not necessarily interacting with others all that often, but are you just maybe more aware of it? Does it feel different in this situation?
It feels different because we are aware that there are restrictions with us. And so it's not like it's our choice to be locked down, but if I were here with the team, I would be surrounded with them all the time, but then I could also go see my family.
Right.
But now I can't see my family. So that's where the isolation is kind of set in, where I'm around everyone and it feels normal, but at the same time, I don't have the luxuries of going home and seeing my friends and family.
Yeah, that had to be a little awkward, I'm guessing, especially being from here, like I mentioned. What do you guys do away from games and practice? I mean, obviously you're busy and you have your schedule, and there's always a match ahead, but there's also a lot of downtime. And I've read where the NBA players are going to have some entertainment, with movies and so forth. When they head to their bubble, what is your group doing these next few weeks in terms of things to do away from competition and practice?
Right now, it's been very relaxed, and with the game starting, that has actually taken away from our downtime. We've been able to watch games, and they actually let teams have about 10 tickets a team to actually go and see other games at the stadium, which has been helpful too. I went to one of the games last night, which was fun. But other than that, we really just spend time together. We played a lot of card games, and we had like team dinners, and we'd play games after. And I know the league has some ideas on other things that we could be doing with our time, but we just haven't really gotten there yet. But I know other teams are given a lot. Like some of our sponsors have given us games like Cam Jam and Cornhole and stuff like that. So just little things to keep us busy.
You guys, as I mentioned, are the first pro league to come back. Do you feel any pressure and not screwing this up, so to speak? Because obviously if there's problems with this and your league in this tournament, then it might raise some red flags for the NBA and the NHL and MLB and some others, and even college sports to try to come back. Do you guys feel that you're kind of under the microscope and it's like, hey, we got to be careful not to ruin this for everybody a little bit?
Definitely. And especially not even just from the team standpoint, but from an individual standpoint, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Because if you do break protocol or any situation where you were in some way to get the virus, the entire tournament could be shut down.
Yeah.
So there's the pressure to, do your best and maintain like the health standards, because just one person getting it could shut down the entire thing. Yeah,
it's a crazy deal. So from what you said, it sounds like no one has gotten it up to this point. Is that correct?
No one at the tournament currently.
Okay.
If you'd seen, the Orlando Pride had several players and staff that tested positive, so
Right.
They made the choice to opt out of the tournament and not come to Salt Lake.
But since you've been there, no one's been infected.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
no
great.
one's been infected. We've all had negative tests, And it's been nice with the testing. They have given us a really, really fast return time for results. It's been less than 24 hours almost.
Wow. Visiting with Daugirda, former Ute, who's now playing with the Utah Royals FC in the NWSL Challenge Cup. They are the first professional sports league in America to resume play since the COVID-19 shutdown that impacted everyone this spring. Well, Holly, a teammate of yours, Carly Nelson, who is also playing in this tournament for the OL Reign. Have you had a chance to catch up with her from a distance at all during this tournament time?
I have, and they were actually, before they came to Salt Lake, they were in, I want to say Montana.
Yep.
And so it's been cool for her because she originally had been with the Royals, but had the opportunity to go to Seattle and took advantage of it. And I know that Seattle had been a dream of hers. So it's been cool to talk to her and see her go out of her comfort zone and get to know a completely foreign team to her. But she has been really enjoying it. And actually the game that I mentioned I went to last night was her game. So I got to socially distance communicate with her with hand gestures and stuff like that. So it was fun seeing her.
That's cool. We are, by the way, recording this show on July 1st. So their play got underway yesterday, which was the final day of June at Zions Bank Stadium. And this tournament continues all the way through the end of July. In fact, the semis are July 22nd. They will move to Rio Tinto Stadium. At that point, the championship game coming up Saturday, July 26th. But until then, all the games are out at Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman. You know, you can't go watch in person, but they're all being streamed live on CBS All Access. So if you're a soccer fan and enjoy watching the college game or the women's pro game, a chance to watch some live sports through streaming. I know CBS Network, I believe, is going to televise the championship coming up on the final day. But it just had to be cool, I imagine, Hi, to be out there finally playing. What was it like to, you know, with no fans in the stands and just sort of a different environment to take the field yesterday for the first time?
It was really exciting just because there have been no sports playing. And so it was exciting to be in a game with a different opponent and have it kind of all starting up again. Yeah. And it was very unique because there were no fans, you could hear everything. You could hear the banner from the other team. It was just so funny because you could just hear everything on the field. Yeah. But it was also nice because we had such a quick turnaround and teams aren't exactly where they would want to be in the situation of a season. So it was nice because you could communicate from the sideline with everyone and kind of be on the same page. Yeah, it led me to a question I had. It's been a quick turnaround from when you guys started training to this tournament, not your normal ramp up that you guys get. So a little bit different. How is this team, how are all the teams, in fact, looking in terms of their fitness and cohesiveness as they get started in this tournament? I think every team is actually looking better than most people anticipated. I don't know if it's because just the tournament has started and adrenaline is pumping, but I think every team did a decent job preparing for the situation and, you know, taking advantage of it, because most teams have been looking good and it's already been a tight tournament with the games that have already been played. It's been pretty high quality of play from what I could see. Well, it's great you're getting a chance to play. And I know the Utah Royals have had a pretty good start. Women's soccer has done very well in the metro area with all the college teams, and it seemed like it's been received well. What are the prospects for the Utah Royals in this tournament? I think we have a good chance. We have a new coach, so obviously that's kind of a harder situation. We are trying to understand him and what he wants, and I think we've done a good job at working on everything to the best of our abilities. We've changed our formation and everything. So it's been tough in that aspect, but it's been good because especially after our game yesterday, you can see that we are actually better than we were anticipating. And so it's kind of boosting our expectations. So I'm excited. I think this team has a lot of talent, and if we can execute it, we have a good chance on having a successful tournament. Very good. So 8 teams all in this NWSL Challenge Cup. Again, it kicked off over the weekend at Zions Bank Stadium, and former Ute Daugirda as well as former Ute Carly Nelson got a chance to play for the first time yesterday on June 30th, and they will play each other again Wednesday, July 8th, 10:30 a.m. at Zions Bank Stadium. And you can catch all the action on CBS All Access throughout this tournament here in the Salt Lake metro area. Well, Holly,
before we get too far down the road, let's talk a little bit about the Utes and your time with the team here. Obviously, a chance to make the postseason last year. I thought a year ago in 18, you guys would make NCAAs. You were fourth in the Pac-12. Didn't work out this past year. The team placed eighth in the conference. 9 teams went to postseason. What was it like to make the tournament field this season for you?
It was really exciting because our freshman year, we had the opportunity to go into the Sweet 16. So we had a feel for what it was like. And then my sophomore year, we had a really unfortunate year. It wasn't our best. And then missing the tournament my senior year really was a bummer for everyone. And it set our expectations high for the next year. And so it was cool seeing all of our hard work since my freshman year pay off and return back into the tournament. And the tournament is just so exciting.
That freshman year was magical, and you obviously played a lot throughout your career, but let's talk about that 2016 season a little bit. A run to the Sweet 16. You guys defeated Florida State in the second round before falling 1-0 to eventual national champion USC. I know it was a long time ago, but as you look back at that run through 2016, what stands out to you specifically about that team and the players on that squad?
I think our team was just so cohesive. Everyone was friendly with one another, and it just worked. And my freshman class was extremely talented, and we were put in a position where we had to step up. They needed the players, and we had to put ourselves in those shoes and step up. And so it just completely worked out because no one had expectations, and everyone just wanted to make the tournament and make that our goal and continue pushing on. And it was successful, and it was really fun. It was a great way to start my experience at the U.
I look back at your scores from that 2016 season. All 5 of your ties were by scores of 1-1 or 0-0. 8 of your 13 wins were by scores of 1-0 or 2-1. So it was a team that was, very good defensively, scored just enough, a lot of close games that you guys pulled out. And you mentioned, the leadership, the cohesiveness of that team, but it just seemed like you guys were just so stingy and just so consistent. Was it the leadership? Was it the strategy from Rich Manning? What helped that team become so good defensively?
I think it was the leadership. We had, our seniors were excellent, and they did a really good job of inviting everyone in and making the freshmen feel like a part of this team. And we had our 5th year player, Katie Rogers, who was our center midfielder. And I feel like she was one of the people that I really looked up to. And I would look up to her in every game because she would pour her heart out every game. And so just their leadership and their actions and their words were probably the reason why we had so much success.
Yeah, it was, again, just a great team. 13 wins for that squad back in 2016, the first ever in school history to go to the NCAA Sweet 16. A year ago I mentioned in 2018, you guys placed 4th in the Pac-12, but did not make NCAAs. Had to be, obviously a huge disappointment, but I thought this year's team maybe learned a little bit about just not giving up because of what they went through a year ago. And it was a determined group that, despite some losses, really had a strong finish. You guys closed out the year with wins over number 21 in Washington and Colorado when it looked like you guys might not make the field. Just talk about, maybe some lessons learned from the 18 season that helped this 19 squad make NCAAs and have that strong finish.
The biggest lesson we learned was that preseason games are incredibly important.
Yeah.
And with the Pac-12, there's no tournament. So really what you do in the preseason affects your seeding into the tournament. And so, the 2018 season, we had an incredible Pac-12 season, but preseason was not exactly what we expected and wanted. And so that was ultimately what kept us out of the tournament. So going into my senior year, the 2019 season, our coach actually did a really excellent job creating our strength of schedule. We had something like the number 13 schedule in the country.
Yep. And
just having such a hard schedule helped us. And then when we were successful in winning games, that boosted us. So while our Pac-12 ranking wasn't necessarily the best, we were able to make the tournament just because of our strength of schedule. So it was cool because everyone understood that preseason was important, and we did our very best to go through it. And then as well went through the Pac-12 season and were able to flip in and get into the tournament.
It's amazing year in, year out how good the Pac-12 is. I mean, not just good at the top with programs like USC and Stanford and UCLA, but the depth of the conference. I mean, to take 9 teams from a 12-team league to the NCAAs, that just speaks volumes about how good of a conference the Pac-12 is, how much it is respected. You know, when you were trying to decide where to go to college, and obviously you're from the metro area, you prepped at Skyline High School, but you had some options. How much of a role did Utah's membership in the Pac-12 play in your decision to become a Ute?
The biggest role, definitely. I wanted the opportunity to play against the Stanford and UCLA and these huge name teams. And so I'd say the main reason, aside from being at home and the academics of the university, it was the Pac-12, just being a part of one of, I'd say easily the greatest conference in the country.
Yeah, I think a lot would second that year in and year out. Other things that helped you become a Ute, what were some other things that attracted you to this Utah program?
I had gone to all the Utah camps growing up, and I actually originally never wanted to play in the state of Utah, which now I look back at and laugh because I played high school here, then college, and now I'm playing professionally. But yeah, I'd go to camps, and then I went on a recruiting visit and followed a girl around at a class and just like around campus and kind of lived a day in her life. And that was the day I really realized I really liked the school, and I think I could see myself playing here. And then that just was in addition to, the Pac-12 and everything else.
Yeah. Well, you had a great pre-Utah career. You were, in fact, the Utah Player of the Year, your final year of high school, the NCAA Player of the Year in 2015, and you also went to the U.S. Under-19 Women's National Team as a player. So you had some really strong accolades, and obviously that led to some chances for you. But looking back at your pre-college career, what point did you kind of think, you know what, I've got a chance of playing college? At what point did you maybe realize you could do what you've done?
It was actually early on. I'd say my freshman year is when I started really understanding that I had the potential for it. And thankfully, the club team that I played for, they do a really good job with recruiting. Like, for example, Michelle Murphy from BYU, who plays in the pros, and then also Kalia Ohai, who went to North Carolina and plays in the pros. My club team really was a huge part of it, but I actually committed to Utah my sophomore year of college, which is very early on, and the rules have changed since then. But I knew early that I had the potential for it, and I was ready to figure it out as soon as possible.
Well, it worked out very well for you, as I mentioned. You played in a couple NCAA tournaments and a great run with this Utah program from 2016 to 19. You started every contest your last 2 years, and over your 4-year career, 5 goals, 11 assists. A lot of those goals came this last season. Let's go back a little bit to this 2019 season. As we mentioned, you guys made NCAAs. You talk to players, and as the time goes by, the things they remember most aren't the wins or the scores. It's your teammates and the time you've had together. As you look back at your time with your teammates during your 4 years, who do you remember the most away from competition?
I'd say everyone in my recruiting class. We had a very unique recruiting class, and we were all really close. And so they made my experience, and they're, to this day, I mean, it's only been 6 months, or 7 months, but to this day, they're my best friends. And so they really made the experience. I'd say my recruiting class, and then I just got close to almost everyone. So it's really cool, the culture that we had at the U and how close everyone got.
Great group of players, and as I said, you guys showed a lot of resilience down the end by getting a couple wins late to lock up that tournament bid. Tell us about Rich Manning. He's been at Utah for a long time, 18 years, in fact, 8 NCAA tournaments, 8 NCAA tournaments. Maybe tell us something about him that people who maybe haven't played for him don't know about Rich Manning.
I'd say they probably don't know that he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. He really cares about his players, and he's very dedicated to what he does. He puts a lot of work in, and I think he has a lot of knowledge, and I respect him for that. So I just can't say enough how kind he is and how genuine he is.
Yeah, great man, treats his players very well, and I've gotten to know Rich pretty well since he's been here and did a great job. His first year he came in 2002, took this team to the NCAAs, and I know it's been a tough transition going to the Pac-12. You go from the Mountain West to the premier, if not one of the premier conferences in college soccer, and he's done a great job. As you look back at your career, is there anything you'd change, anything you'd do different, or were you overall pretty happy with the way things played out in your time with the Utes?
I think there's always things you could look back at and change, but when I reflect on it now, I really wouldn't, because I feel like I wouldn't be where I was without, the successes and the failures that I did experience in my past 4 years. So not anything specifically. I think the things that I do regret built me up. So.
Yeah, everyone says it's the process that makes you, and you've had a great run. As I said, 4 years with the Utes from 2016 to 19, now playing with the Utah Royals FC in this NWSL tournament. So this thing will end, down the road here in early July. So it's a 1 year or a short-term contract is what you have with this group, and you've played a lot of soccer during your days, Holly. What's ahead for you?
I'm not completely sure yet. Right now the plan is just to continue playing and training in the off season, but you never know, plans can change. So just keeping my eyes open to really any opportunity that fits or is attractive to me.
Well, I tell you what, whether the road ends for you after this tournament or it continues, we're so excited for you. A great career at Utah. You played in some wonderful teams. You were a big part of all of them. Again, that Sweet 16 run in 2016, you got your team back to the tournament this year as a senior. And Holly, all the best to you, and we thank you for taking time to join us.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
For more on Utah athletics, including up-to-date schedules and ticket information, log on to utahutes.com. Now back to more of Utes Insider presented by Pepsi.
Well, so much fun to catch up with Holly Daugirda. We appreciate her dropping by during this busy time of her schedule during the NWSL Challenge Cup. And by the way, this podcast set to debut on July 7th. On July 8th, Holly's Utah Royals and Carly Nelson's OL Reign set to play each other at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time on CBS Sports All Access. So as a Utah soccer fan, if you get a chance, that would be fun to watch those two go head-to-head. And we hope to catch up with Carly down the road as well. She had a great off-the-field story that she shared with us on UtahUtes.com back last fall. Drew Wiseman did a great job with that story. So check it out if you can, and we'll try to catch up, as I said, with Carly down the road. But both Carly and Holly played such big roles for the Utes this past year. Their leadership helped Utah get back to NCAAs, and we enjoy chatting with Holly Daugirda on this podcast here today. Well, excited to see what's happening in sports. No fans at events right now, but MLB hoping that they can bring fans back to stadiums as we head towards September. College is still working on the plans to get college fans in the stands this fall. Going to be an interesting couple of months as we work through the ramifications of this pandemic. And speaking of Major League Baseball, former Ute pitcher Stephen Fife, who played in the majors during short stints from 2012 to 14, will join us on next week's show. Looking forward to catch up with him as we talk about his career and the challenges pro baseball is facing as they gear up in the age of the coronavirus pandemic. So Stephen Fife joining us for our show next week. That will do it for now. Until then, I'm Mike Lageschulte. So long, everybody.
This has been Utes Insider presented by Pepsi. To hear more episodes of this show and other Utah athletics podcasts, search for them on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.